Hello, hello. Welcome to The Mill. Very excited to have a wonderful guest joining us today, Marisa Nieves. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks, Rachel.
Yes, amazing. For anyone watching and tuning in, let's get to know Marisa a little bit. Her pronouns are she, her, and hers, and she's currently the director of Massachusetts programs for the Roxbury-based nonprofit Innovation Studios. Nieves graduated from Stonehill College magna cum laude in 2017 with her degree in history and interdisciplinary studies. Upon graduating, she completed a year of service with Maggie's Place in Phoenix, Arizona, and now lives in a freezing cold state in New England.
Yep.
Her experience in and out of the classroom led to her to earn her graduate certificate in gender, leadership, and public policy from the University of Massachusetts, Boston's McCormick Graduate School of Policy and Global Studies. They have to come up with a shorter name for that.
They really do.
Or an acronym. You know what I mean? Like, meet me halfway. Marisa is a doer and a strategist. She remains a people-focused and data-driven leader striving to foster collaboration, innovation, and authenticity. She keeps community, equity, and justice at the center of her work. She takes an anthropology approach to ensure the community maintains a key stakeholder in the organization's mission and uses programs as a catalyst for systemic policy change. Very impressive. Thank you so much for being here, Marisa.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. So before we get into it, first of all, let's just talk about what is Innovation Studios and what is National Diversity Fair?
Yeah, so exciting. So Innovation Studio is a nonprofit, so 501c3, working with early stage founders from ideation to validation and sometimes scaling if they are a traditional small business. We run innovation centers in Boston and Rhode Island, as well as our programs. So we do that in Boston and Rhode Island, focused on how are we going to help folks who have an idea understand and internally process. Are they ready to take that leap into entrepreneurship, or are they more comfortable sticking as a hobby and continuing to do that on the side? And then taking them from business idea to business model, understanding how they're going to communicate to access capital, as well as those small businesses that are 2 years in, taking them from surviving to the thriving mindset through a 10-week, 10-session accelerator. And then National Diversity Fairs is a for-profit that I am on the advisory committee for. It started out through Innovation Studio indirectly. It was an entrepreneur that I connected with through a navigation call that we offer through Innovation Studio, who was working in the graduate space and looking to make sure that folks had access to understanding the graduate process, especially folks who didn't have that growing up. And so a lot of what I do is helping identify different partners to have national diversity fairs, expand access, expand partnerships, and be able to reach more students that are navigating that master's in graduate studies.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as an entrepreneur and still considering myself a startup owner, only being in business for just over 5 years now, the work that you're doing at Innovation Studio is so incredibly important because a lot of entrepreneurs don't have partners, haven't gotten investors. They're really just by themselves. So it's so amazing to build and offer resources, a community, a network, support, solutions, all of the above that any early stage business owner, even if you're 5 months in or 5 years in like myself, you're still going to need that community.
It's so crucial. And I love being able to do it. Like today I had 4 calls with entrepreneurs who are early stage trying to navigate the process. And the consistent thread is, what do? I have this idea, I have this drive, this passion, but how do I get connected with folks to help it come to fruition? And I always hear like entrepreneurship really lonely and realizing that it doesn't have to be. And that's the beauty of being able to work with entrepreneurs through this process.
Yeah. And what does being an advisor mean to you? How do you define that?
Oof. For me, an advisor is an advocate, but also a soundboard, providing different perspectives, also being a cheerleader for the founder, and helping them process. Because I think at the end of the day, the founder, that is theirs, they're leading it, but being able to provide different perspectives to help them through the decision-making process, but also helping their lives be a little bit easier through my role of partnership strategist, of saying, hey, I have these people who should be connected with you. You should be connected with them. I'm just going to set this into motion and have you take it from here. So that way, a little less work in their busy day.
And I love that you talk about connection because you call yourself a connector. And I have been on all ends of that with you, which is so incredible. And I just want you to talk about why it's so important to be a proactive connector.
Oh my gosh, it's so important. I remember when I was in college, it was my senior year, and I was trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do with my life, as everyone does every single day. And I wrote on the board on a index card, I pinned it up on my desk, and I was like, I am going to be proactive and not reactive for change. And for me, being a connector is all about not gatekeeping. So if I make a connection, if I have information and someone else approaches me and talks about something, my brain is automatically going, ooh, this person should talk to you and talk to you and talk to you. Or this could be a really cool alignment. This could be a great collaboration, or you guys are so like-minded that you should definitely, grab coffee together. Especially in the world of entrepreneurship, there's so many folks who, going back to that point of it doesn't have to be lonely, where I hear them doing similar things. I'm like, hey, even if it doesn't work out, you at least have another friend in this space who you can call, who you can run ideas by. And so being a connector is really about opening gates, opening pathways, but also being accountable to the people that I connect with daily, through work, through like professional networking. Even I've seen my worlds collide where I've worked with small businesses, and then I coach youth rock climbing for indoors on the weekend. And so there's been so many collaborations where I've been able to say, oh, we're at the gym, this is happening, we should reach out to these entrepreneurs. So it's about how do we make life easier for folks, and how do we just make those connections so that they are on a easier and path to success and reach their goals and just have more opportunities.
I couldn't agree with that more, Marissa. And I find myself, the skill I've been working on for the last few years and really aggressively working on it is whenever I'm in a room with anyone, I am immediately running through my mental Rolodex to say, who do I know that I can talk about if they're not in the room?
Yes.
And to me, that is one of the most valuable things that any of us can do, particularly women in business, is talk about people even when they're not around in a really positive light.
Yeah, that doesn't fine.
Right. And when I go to these events now, I am immediately thinking to myself, okay, who do I know? What do they need? So then when I meet someone and they say something, it's automatically triggering a thought for me. Now that takes time, right? I have to prep a lot before I go to events or I'm speaking or we're sponsoring something because I just want to be prepared. So, for me, a big piece of being a connector is also being prepared and being well in tune with the people in my network so that when I do meet someone, I'm like, oh, perfect. What a great synergy this is. And even if it's not, the two of you may know someone who will be beneficial to one or both of you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just think of all the networking events where, especially when folks who are newer to the networking space, my co-op from Northeastern actually went to his first networking event last night and was really nervous. And I gave him some of my finesse tips. But there's times where I literally have said, you talk.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be great. And they're just like, okay. Because especially when you're networking and you're new to a space, you don't know folks. It's so great to have someone say, you two, just talk. You don't have to know what to talk about, but just know that there's going to be something that comes out of it instead of having to deal with the small talk and approach someone yourself with the, hey, how's the weather? Commute, was rest.
Snow today. I think there's another major misconception around networking and connectivity that we have to immediately, like, you get something, I get something, right? Let's get kind of how we learn about networking is you go and you network to get something or to give something, right? And to me, I have found that the most successful networking, and it's the impetus behind our Table Talk networking series, is you should experience something together. You should have an important and value-based conversation. And then if it turns into a valuable relationship, now we can explore, oh, I thought of you for this thing, or I was looking for something like this. Do you happen to know anyone? So it's more of a softer, longer game, right? Which to some people, they're like, I got to distribute 40 business cards. I got to get 60 business cards. I got to set up 7 meetings. I despise that. I despise it. And I think that it is such a terrible way for people to build true valuable relationships And when you have trust in that connectivity, it's just going to lead to a more productive relationship.
That's the key to it, is that trust of being reciprocal, being intentional, and listening to actually listen and understand the person. Because typically when you're networking, you've never met this person. They're not just what they do for work. They're a human at their core. So finding out their interests, or, I think fashion is a great starting point for conversation when you're networking. If you love someone's outfit or something, an accessory, just being like, that is wonderful. And typically they have a natural response of, oh my gosh, like this was on sale, or I got it here. And you can start that conversation, and it trails to, great, we're humans. We've connected on some sort of level. We're having conversations that are flowing. And then if it gets to a point where you have some professional synergies, then you can broach it. Otherwise, you just have someone where you connected with and now have another human to share stories with, look for support, and have that person, or if you're at another networking event, like, hey, are you going? Or here's an opportunity. Hope you'll join me.
Louder for all of the people. That is just like, it's my dream, is that we can all get to this space where we're all, rather than competing, we are supporting, networking, and connecting. And so I want to shift gears quickly and talk about the programs that you are leading, overseeing, managing, working late into the night, make sure they go off well. Talk to me about some of the programs that Innovation Studio offers, and how are you measuring success of these programs for the entrepreneurs?
Yes, great question. For us, our organization has gone through quite a few changes from our inception in 2010. We branched out of CIC and Venture Cafe. We ran the Venture Cafe New England programs up until 2020 when they went in-house. And we recognized that as an organization, where did we see the greatest impact? And for that, it was working with fewer folks in a more intentional way, guiding them through cohort-based programming through start to mid-level, especially looking at, there's so many wonderful accelerators and programs out there, especially in Boston and greater Boston. But what happens to folks who don't get accepted into those programs, or who don't have access or the social capital to know about them? So that's kind of where our niche is those folks who just need that extra foundation to make them more confident in navigating this space. So our Inspire program, that one is all about, I have an idea, or I have so many ideas. What do I want to do? And we just kind of work through that process to help them come to a place of, okay, this right here is a profitable business idea that I think I'm going to move forward with. And from there, I think right now I'm running a Create program, and that's that business idea to business model. We don't focus on the business plan because we want to make sure that folks have a validated business model that's profitable, scalable, and sustainable. And then once we get them to that point, we'll pass them off to all of our other amazing partners and resource providers like Center for Women in Enterprise that focus on the business plans, the strategy, the more in-depth aspects, or Eat for All, where they go more into the financials. So we get them to that place where then we can say, here you go to our partner who's going to take you to the next step that you need. And our share program, so that's also a great reciprocal one with our partners, where a lot of times their folks graduate, are an alumni, are starting their business, and in the 2-year mark of have a year of revenue, and they're stuck. They don't know where to go next. They need some of those foundations to help them take that leap, but also that self-accountability, because we find a lot of those folks who are they're still really in their business. And you can't really strategize about your business when you're deep in it. So allowing them to take that step back, focus for 2 hours a week on a specific topic, work with experts, work with cohorts that have great synergy, then they can take it forward and then see wherever else they want to go. But it really is about how are we providing an individualized pathway for our entrepreneurs who are really early, from lots of ideas all the way to, okay, I have a traditional small business. I'm in it for 2 years. I need help. Where can I go? And then how do I access capital? So how do I communicate that to folks, from parents, grandparents, siblings, the cashier, an investor, or client? How are you communicating your business to the diverse audiences that you're going to interact with? Because every audience has a different story to tell, which I think you know so well in marketing of, How are you communicating and articulating that story?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so touched that I had an opportunity to present to two different E for All cohorts in 2023. And what's amazing to me is, again, being a solopreneur, no partner, no investor, fully self-funded, grinding it out, also hit that 2-year slump, and I remember thinking to myself, I didn't even know that there were resources like this out there. I was like, I need to grind it out and figure it out myself, or it's going to fail and I'll just go get a job like everyone else. Literally, that was my thought process.
Yeah.
And of course I had mentors and I had friends and colleagues and former colleagues and family that owns businesses, so I had that type of resource, but it all came with a lot of opinion versus going to something like Innovation Studio, where I'm now interacting with other entrepreneurs that may be in a similar situation to me, and it kind of acts like a board of directors almost, not only in accountability, but in information sharing and advice sharing and struggle,
Yes.
and I'm blanking on the word, but like we can sympathize with each other on like, oh God, well that sucked. You also having a shit day? Me too.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So it's just, I applaud the work that you're doing because I have lived it. I am still living it. There's times that I wish I still had a network, but I'm also like, oof, I'm glad I got through it. Now I need to, now it's my responsibility to do things like partner with E for All, an innovation studio, and be able to offer up, here's what I did. It worked for me. Take it or leave it. See how that is applicable to your business. I'm here for you with these questions.
And that's for us is one of the best parts. And my thought process and a lot of the others on our team is, yes, there's so many wonderful mentors out there and advisors, but a lot of them are too far removed from the stage that our entrepreneurs are at. And so anytime we're looking for folks to serve as mentors, advisors, facilitators, we love having it be folks that are just, 2 or 3 steps ahead of where the entrepreneur is at, because they can really understand what it's like to be in that position in similar periods where the trends are pretty similar, technology is similar, and they're just very connected to where that person is at.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to shift gears quickly and ask you some personal questions. As someone with a very long history of helping others, is there a moment in your career that you were particularly proud of that you can share with us?
Oh, yeah. There's so many I can think of. But I think one of my favorite ones is when I was a team director at a Boys and Girls Club. It was during the pandemic. So, first off, being a teenage girl sucks. Being a teenager in general sucks. But like a teenage girl is its own thing.
It's not great.
And putting the pandemic on top of it, isolation, hormonal changes, family dynamics, cultural aspect. And when I was a team director, I was able to organize the first ever girls retreat. So we stayed in the clubhouse all weekend, and I was able to really build formative relationships with the teens in our program. Their families, there was a lot of prepping them of like, what is it going to be like? We're just staying at the clubhouse. This is what we're doing. But giving them that space to build friendships and also talk about difficult topics like mental health that they maybe feel comfortable talking about with their family. Giving them the opportunity to build strong relationships. I always joke with them. I was like, I'm not doing my job right if you guys don't know each other's middle names. I was like, we need to get deep here. Like, you need to know the middle name. Like, you need to build those relationships. And so the first retreat was a hit. 2 days, I actually had a female entrepreneur of color be our keynote speaker to show them access to entrepreneurship. And then we did it again. And it was something they always looked forward to, being able to be that person that I think a lot of 13, 14-year-old girls needed, and having those topics that you're kind of scared to talk about. You think you're alone in it, being like, hey, we're all in this together, and recognizing we're way more similar than we are different. And so that was, I loved that one.
That's a great answer. I love the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
I got to make pasta with a big group of kids there. months ago, and it was so incredible to watch this group of kids come together. And I think it's also really important for entrepreneurs. While we're very busy and we're invested in our companies and growth and research development, all the things, money, that's not everything. Like, it's just not. And to me, I find a lot of creative inspiration by doing things like giving back,
Really?
and being a part of something that's much, much bigger than my company will ever be.
Hey, your company's going to get real big. It's going to be as big as it needs to be.
Damn right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like, it's so great. I love that answer. And I think that I encourage everyone to be really reflective on your proud moments. I know as an entrepreneur, it's just me, right? And I have some employees and we have tons of contractors, right? But like, we're all remote, so it is just me physically here. And we'll like sign a really big deal with a client, or we'll hand off a huge project. I don't take time to celebrate those moments and feel really proud of myself, because I'm like, oh, on to the next, or like, all right, great, done, case study, get it out the door. Like, we're not taking moments to reflect. And so I think that's a really important lesson of something that I'm trying to work on, because I'm really proud of the work that I'm doing as a business, the work that we're doing philanthropically, but I don't take the time to really fully celebrate the fact that I'm like, yeah, this was really great. I'm really proud of myself.
Like, I'm crushing it. Like, I am a badass entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a badass bitch. I'm running this shit. You know what I mean? And I'm doing it all. Like, I'm awake and I'm eating and I did laundry and like, life is good, right? So that's really my advice to people starting out and it's why I like asking that question of like, what are you proud of? Because we're not asked it enough, and I don't think that we think about it enough, especially when you are an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I'd say, like, in addition, something I've recently really recognized that I'm so proud of in my own self, of taking that time to slow down and actually process and reflect, of saying, like, wow, look how far I've come. And look how I'm reacting, or look how I'm responding now and not reacting. And look how, I've done X, Y, and Z, but being able to say, cool, like, you can slow down, take care of yourself, like, prioritize you, say yes when you want to, say no when you don't want to. And being able to look back, I mean, I'm only 28, but even a few years ago, and be like, oh my God, and saying, you did it, bitch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I've come a long way. I totally agree. So, if you are watching, please remember to slow down. My mom always says to me, Rachel, haste makes waste. And she's right. Either you're going to make mistakes or you're going to miss an important moment to celebrate something really great. So, Marisa, I want to end on kind of a heavy question. So you talk about being passionate and being really interested in research in topics like educational equity, the effects of policy on low-income communities, and increasing culture capital. I would love for you to share what sparked your interest in those three topics, and how do you feel that doing the research and keeping yourself informed impacts the work that you're doing now?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I think for me, the biggest thing is when I was post-grad, I did my year of service at Maggie's Place, and I was a live-in support staff at a homeless shelter for pregnant and parenting moms in crisis. A 22-year-old, doesn't have kids, hasn't processed my own trauma, but don't worry, throw me in and support others with substance abuse, histories of trauma and neglect, all of that. Some of the most joyous moments ever, and also most difficult. And in hearing so many of the stories of the woman I call my family, I came to realize a lot of it was down to the policies that were in place. For example, a lot of them were formerly incarcerated. And being in the state of Arizona, you don't get your right to vote unless you pay your fines and restitutions. Okay, let's think about that. You have a convicted felony. You can't vote until you pay your fines and restitutions. How are you going to get a well-paying job to pay those fines and restitutions if you have a felony conviction, especially one that maybe was from when you were like 18 years old for marijuana or something very minimal in the grand scheme of things? And it really frustrated me. And a lot of them were failed by the education system. Some of the women told me that they were just viewed as a disruption in class, and the teacher just put them on a desk facing the wall and directly said, if I had more support growing up in school, I would have never gotten into drugs or been in the situations I would have been in, which would have created a different path. And it really got me thinking about the importance of policy and how policy directly affects people. And we don't even realize it at times. There's policy is all around us. And it's a reflection of how we value humanity. And so it's also a way to stay accountable for me of doing that research of what is actually happening. And when it comes to programs, it's, okay, what are the real needs here? How can I be an advocate and be a voice of inclusivity and equity, of making sure if someone's talking about entrepreneurship, I've brought to the table so many times, especially in Boston, where we have top universities. I'm like, great, well, what about people who are attending the community college? Or what about folks who don't have access to this? Or they are incarcerated. A lot of times they're entrepreneurs by nature. They just need a little help doing it legally. Like, but how are we connecting with folks if we are priding ourselves on innovation and education? But we're forgetting a lot of our folks. And so that research has been core in making sure that we're looking at things in a more equitable way, especially in programs. We have a long way to go. I would love to have our programs offered in so many of the core languages, but then it comes to the issue of capacity and sustainability for the organization. But yeah, it's just a research shouldn't be just research. It should be actionable and help you be accountable.
I could not agree with all of that more. And I think, from a marketing perspective, when we talk to clients about initiatives like DEI, sometimes clients will say, well, we put a person of color on our homepage, or put a same-sex couple on our collateral. And I'm like, I think that's fantastic. That's not DEI. That's like table stakes, that's just like expected. And so what I think is really important is that business owners or people in decision-making positions with access to C-suite level people need to be more vocal and open minds of, hey, maybe we should consider people that are just from the community. For example, I'm on the board of directors for the Sea Science Center, and they're doing a really great job at reaching out to some of their members, some of their disabled members, for example, and saying, hey, what do you need? What are we lacking right now that we can do better? How can we better serve you, your family, your friends, your kids? What do you need from us? Mm-hmm. And to me, that is a perfect example of how to appropriately have your business organization have initiatives like DEI ingrained in your strategic plan, not just be something that you did once. And done. DEI, done.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be. I think we're getting to a point too where there's so many conversations about DEI departments being defunded, and I think we're getting to a point where it doesn't need to just be DEI. It needs to be a fabric of, this is what we do, this is what we stand for as a job, as a company, as a state, as a country. Like, this is just the norm. It's no longer an addition, but it's what we do.
Right. And I feel confident that it'll become exponentially ingrained into business strategy rather than a line item on a status sheet.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Intentional impact.
Intentional impact. Marisa, thank you so much. This has really been an enjoyable conversation for me. I love the work that you're doing. If anyone who is watching is interested in learning more about Innovation Studio or Marisa, please connect with her on LinkedIn. She will be tagged in our post copy. Thank you so, so much.
Thanks, Rachel. This was so fun.
Yay, good. Well, for everyone watching, thank you for tuning into The Mill. We will see you next time.
Bye.